Hello and welcome to Dreams of Wings, and welcome here to Egilsstaðir in Iceland. I do apologise for the pronunciation. My Icelandic is even worse than my French, and that's saying a lot. So we're going to be taking a flight here in P3D for a change, in the beautiful, wonderful, incredibly fluid A2A Accu-sim Comanche 250. Looking forward to seeing this in Microsoft Flight Simulator, hopefully not too far away. So the purpose of this flight really is to get a bit of refamiliarization in the aircraft, and also try out the new Fulcrum One Yoke that I got recently to see how she feels with the Yoke as well, because that's just really is two wonderful pieces of simulator technology coming together, and again using it in anticipation for when the Comanche comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator, which hopefully isn't too far off. So we're going to be taking a flight here from Egilsstaðir to Vopnafjörður. Again, apologies for the pronunciation. And we're also going to take in Askja, which is a volcano, because why not? We're in Iceland. Right, well, here we are in the cockpit, and it is quite an attractive cockpit. We've got a GPS, which is the standard one. I used to have the Flight 1 GTN, but then the developer stopped keeping up with the updates that were coming through on P3D, stopped supporting it. So that, as far as I'm aware, is still defunct now. So just using the standard, but we're not going to use GPS. We're just going to use our Mark 1 eyeball and a map, using the little nav map for this. And we shall go and have a look. Anyway, first thing we've got to do is do a walk around. Oh yes, with A2A you get to do a walk around. Now I should say I've no idea what features the Microsoft Flight Simulator one is going to have. I don't know if it's going to have the walk around. It's always been one of the great features of the A2A P3D and FSX fleet, but who knows. So anyway, in the cabin, first of all, remove the bungee. There we go. Let's get rid of him for a second. I'm just going to check. Yeah, the parking brake is on. Master switch on. And we'll check the fuel quantities. They're both good. That's absolutely fine. Fuel selectors are both on main. Sorry, the light in this is a little bit dark at the moment because we've got a cloud over, so we're in a little bit of shadow. So hopefully you can see that. Right, master switch off, ignition off, yeah, and flaps extend. There we go, and we see those going down. So now we're just going to do a walk around. So press and hold that. We can see that that's secure. We'll have a look at the hinges. Nothing is broken here. Let's go to the next station. And nothing is broken there. That's good. And we'll just quickly check the wing for damage, of which there is none. And let's go to the end. So the wingtip navigation lights. Navigation light is looking good. I've not got anything in the tip tank, so I wouldn't expect to see anything there. And I wouldn't expect to have an option to drain it. The landing light looks okay. Down here, we're going to remove the chocks. And we'll have a look at the tyres, and the tyres are looking good. No issues there. Right wing, we have got some fuel in here, so we are going to check that. And that's good. That's pretty much full, which is where we wanted it to be. Now we're going to drain some fuel and have a look at that, and there's no water in there. So again, that's looking nice. All lovely blue fuel. Looks quite refreshing in a non-wanting to drink it way. Drain it again, and again it's still quite nice. Nothing wrong with the propeller. That's all looking good. Check for any birdies that have decided to nest in here, because it has been a while since I've flown it, but no, nothing in there. Tweety Pie is safe. Right, let's check the oil level, and the oil level is good. We are okay with that. We'll do the same here. Have checked the fuel tank, and we've got plenty in there. We'll remove the chock. We haven't got the tie downs in, so we don't need to worry about that. There we go. The stall warner vane is working fine. We're going to remove the pitot cover, and that is going to be cold because we haven't got the pitot heat on. So we jump in, turn that on, turn on the pitot heat, just let it warm up a little bit. At this point I could sing you an Icelandic folk song, but I won't. You're very lucky. Okay, let's see what that has given us. Jump back out. There we go. Press and hold, and it's red, so that we know the pitot heat is working because it's warm. Landing lights fine. Nothing in the tip tank, so we don't need to worry about that. Have a quick look here. Everything's looking fine there. Check the linkage. Nothing broken. And the same over here. Press and hold. That's all nicely connected. And have we got anything broken? No. Quick look here. Clear the static source in case there's anything there, which there isn't. And no tie downs. Let's have a look at our hinges. All our hinges are looking good. Everything's looking fine there. And yeah, that's nice and sturdy. Nothing about to drop off. And we will check the baggage door and we will lock it. There we go. So that's the walk around. And that's just one of the cool little things that you can do with the A2A Accu-sim in P3D or FSX. Fingers crossed it will come through into Microsoft Flight Simulator. And to be honest, I'd be surprised if it didn't, because it has always been one of those kind of hallmark things. So as it's been a while, I also need to make sure that I bring up the checklist here so I don't forget to do anything that's going to be quite important. So first of all, let us go to page 1. So we've done the pre-flight. Passengers, that's you guys are briefed. We're going for a flight. Don't spill your coffee. Don't hang out the window. And don't insult air traffic control. Seat belts, shoulder harness on. Flaps, I'm now going to raise. There we go. Radios are all off. Circuit breakers are... Oh, get my head tracking working there for a second. Yeah, all of those are in. All electrical switches are off. Autopilot is off. Rotating beacon is on. Carb heat is off. I seem to remember that's over. Yeah, that's over there. Fuel selectors, desired tank. We've got them both on at the moment. I'm not using the tip tanks. What do we get to? Right, gear switch is down. Now this has got a 3-position switch. So although my Honeycomb Bravo is got the gear down position, the switch here, which is a 3-way, was just in off. So I've put that down to down. Right, engine starting. So throttle cracked. Mixture is fully rich and prop is fully fine. Master switch on. Check gear lights green. It is good. That's always reassuring. Put the fuel pump on and check the pressure. It's interesting. Oh, there we go. Yep, finally started squirting through. And now we switch the fuel pump off. Engine prime. So it's the cold start. And we're going to give it 4 squirts. Lost count there because I was thinking of something else, but that'll do. Right, so we've done that. Mags both. Clear prop. Oh, that's a relief. Oh, do you know, I'm so used to the spit, I was just going to turn that to lock it, but we don't need to. Right, let's have a look at our T's and P's. Everything's looking fine. Pressure is good, oil pressure is good. We just need our oil temperature to rise a bit now. Let's just bring back, there we go. Let's have a look. And oil pressure ammeter, yep, good. Mixture lean, as we're on the ground. Let's have avionics on. Don't lean it too much. So as I say, we're not worrying about the GPS today, but at least we've got all our radios on. Okay. Now we'll just let it warm up. Okay, there we go, just warming up now at about 1000 RPM. Oil temperature's rising. Now it's interesting, you can hear the engine there. That's probably leaned it back a bit too much. Yeah, there we go. Pull back there a little bit. I'd leaned it a bit too much for the for ground. Right, oil temperature's risen there nicely, so I think we should get a move on. So let's just have a quick look around, make sure that everything is looking okay. I'm going to put the pitot heat on now. That's all tickety-boo. Okay, let's get our checklist back up. Right, so taxi radios are on, transponder we're not using, altimeter. Let's have a look here what we've got in terms of pressure setting. Bear with me. So it looks like we have a pressure setting of 1009. We're in the different format on this one, aren't we? 29.8. There we go. Okay, things were slightly underground, so I'm just going to zero that. There we go. Right, let's get going. So first of all, we're going to release the parking brake. Check the brakes, they're working fine. Okay, let's go. So we've got nothing really in the way of wind today. So we're going to take runway 04. Just over there. Then we'll do a quick run up over there as well. Now, I will warn you now, I'm having no end of technical problems today. It's as if my P3D has said, hang on a minute mate, you've not used me for a long time, you've been doing that new flight sim thing. Well, don't think I'm just going to work on command. So I've already had to just quickly restart it now because something wasn't quite working. So let's have a look. Okay, I'm just going to pull it up to here. As I say, there's no real wind, so we don't need to worry about getting the aircraft pointing in the direction of the wind. There we go. Right. So, run up, brakes, hold, fuel quantity check is fine. Fuel selectors are on both. They are mixture set, so I'm going to put it to fully rich for this. Throttle to 2000 RPM. Check our engine instruments, everything's looking fine there. Oil pressure, the temperature, everything's fine, that's looking good. So we'll do a quick mag check. Everything's good there, and we're going to cycle the prop 3 times. out into the governor and all that sort of thing, and also shows it's working. There we go, and let's put that back up, and we'll do a carb heat check as well. Just watch the RPM drop a little bit there. There we go, and we're back. Right, everything can calm down now. So, before takeoff, controls free and correct. And that's good, yep. Fuel pump on. Fuel selectors are on the tanks that we want, which is both, which is fine. Carb heat is off. Mixture set to rich. Prop is fully fine. Engine gauge is nothing looking untoward then. I will check the flap now. Oh, it's on the roof in this, isn't it? There we go. I'm just going to wind that back a little bit. I did have quite a shock when I did a quick test flight on this yesterday. I literally took off in the Comanche and did a circuit and came back again, but I hadn't checked the trim, and all of a sudden the nose is trying to point at the sun, which was quite interesting on takeoff. But that's what happens if you don't do your checks. Right, blah blah blah. We're not going to use flap. That's absolutely fine. Door is latched. There we go. That's why we have a checklist. Right, we're all ready to go. Nothing coming in. Got the landing lights on now and the strobe as we're about to go in. So let's get rid of that for the time being. I'm going to quickly refer back to it though, because I can't remember the correct settings for climb and cruise and all that sort of thing. That information has long since departed my brain, so I'll quickly be referring to that just to get that. There we go. Bring around. Thank you very much. Just gonna try and use as much runway as I can, as this is something of a test flight. Okay, so let's quickly hold there. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm just looking at my map again just so I can see where we're going to need to go. So that's absolutely fine. Let's do that. Let's center the tracking again. All good down here. Nothing untoward. T's and P's are fine. Nothing there to worry about. Let's go. A bit of a wobble there. And we're going to rotate at 85 knots. Gently back. There we go. Positive rated climb, gear up. When we get to 500 feet, I'm just going to do a slight right turn in readiness to come back round to the left so we can turn over there. Bringing the RPM back a little bit. This yoke really does feel just absolutely beautiful. And interestingly, it's been a while since I've flown in P3D, but it's a lot smoother than I remember it being. This is the free Orbx Iceland demo, and it's pretty good. Looks good. Okay, let's come around now. Let's just bring up that menu. So climb is 24 inches. fine. And then when we go into cruise, it's going to be 24 and 24. We're going to go full beans. Now, quite important that we did the walk around and everything, because one of the great things about Accu-sim is that it will bite you on the bum if you don't look after the aeroplane, if you don't keep an eye on things. Things will go wrong, linkages will break, the engine will be rough, or not work at all. So you do have to do these checks, and I have, back in my FSX days and P3Dv5 days, not done checks, jumped in the aeroplane, and suddenly you find that one of your flaps is hanging off or something like that, which I'm sure you can agree is never a situation that you really want to be in. Dangling flappage is not normal procedures. I've just realised I've done exactly what I warned you about before. So I've got gear up on my indicator, sorry, on my Bravo, but look, 3-position switch. So, boof. What an idiot. It's quite interesting doing this flight actually, because it reminds me, after some time now flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator and struggling to fly in P3D just because how the scenery looks. But this reminds me of why I loved P3D before Microsoft Flight Simulator came along, because this does look pretty good, looks pretty realistic. And this Comanche is just an absolute joy to fly. It's very hard to describe if you've never flown it. If maybe you're new to simming and your first experience perhaps is Microsoft Flight Simulator, just how smooth and how fluid this is. You really do feel like you're in an object that's passing through air, and it's just lovely and smooth. One of the interesting things about Microsoft Flight Simulator is that the aircraft are actually harder to fly, purely because of the quirks that there are with Microsoft Flight Simulator and how it works, how turbulence works, how some of the aircraft fly. It's actually harder. So I know some people kind of look down on Microsoft Flight Simulator a little bit, seeing it more as a game, but actually it kind of can test your skills a little bit more. But there is no doubt that this, flying the Comanche, oh man, heck, must have had some Earl Grey tea this morning. The Comanche is just an absolute joy, and with this yoke, incredibly smooth. Just doing some very gentle trimming movements there. Just trying to feel it out. We've got a good rate of speed. Everything is okay there. I can increase the throttle a little bit, and I'm just going to lean it out. We're not really that high, but just lean it out a little bit. And just watching the EGT. Doesn't hurt to save a bit of fuel. There we go. Another reason why I wanted to do this flight or do this video now is the channel is approaching 4,000 subscribers, and I guess I, like all YouTubers, do keep an eye on the subscribers. I also really want to make sure people are enjoying the videos, so that's what I'm looking at, as well as comments and feedback and all that sort of thing. But it is nice to see the subscriber number growing, and it was A2A that got me back into simming after a long kind of gap where I was I'd gone bored with flight simming. I was just using default aircraft, hadn't really discovered add-ons, apart from, I think I was using what was it called, the VFR photo scenery, which at the time was kind of cutting edge, but I'd gone bored just flying A to B in default aircraft, and I don't know why I got the A2A spit. I don't know what made me go out and do it after losing interest in simming, but I did. And at the same time I also discovered Orbx, and it just completely revolutionised how I thought of flight simming. And flying something like the Comanche, as I approach 4,000 views in P3D, just seems kind of fitting. It's kind of going back to what made me fall in love with flight sim again, because it wasn't long after getting the spit that I started buying the rest of the A2A catalogue up, and realising what it was like to have really good high fidelity flight sim aircraft, and just how it could change everything, and especially when you have scenery like this. The other thing I should say is when I first loaded up here in Iceland, I was having real mesh issues, and I think it was because I'd messed about with some third-party mesh that I used to have in it, so I've loaded that back in. That's the Pilot's Ultimate. With default P3D you're not necessarily going to get this kind of mesh, but I've added it back in to here anyway, and it's looking pretty good. So, just another thing to add, we have a Discord, well worth coming along. You can post screenshots, you can talk about aeroplanes, we have group flights every now and again. There's also a section, if you're just looking for someone to fly with, there's a section where you can just go in and say, hey, I'm at such and such, flying to wherever. Do you want to come and join? And it's just an opportunity for people who are finding it difficult to find anyone to fly with, or just want to fly with someone else, and community members can pop in there and do that. It's not necessarily a place to advertise other group flights that are going on elsewhere. It's just really for people to find someone to fly with. Simple as that, because that is one of the great pleasures in life, is flying with other people. So I'll put the link to the Discord down below, and look forward to seeing you there. So we will head over now. I'm just going to cut the corner here a little bit, just to save a little bit of time. And we'll go and have a look at our volcano. Now the volcano that we're going to Askia was actually, or that area was actually used by NASA to really, because they were looking for somewhere to train Apollo program astronauts on geology and collecting samples and that sort of thing, and they used that area that we're going to train them up to do that. We're not going to be doing that today, don't worry, this isn't going to turn into a geology lesson. Now, one of the other beautiful things about Accu-sim is that in so many ways the aircraft talks to you, and I actually had spotted an error before, and I don't know if you spotted it too, maybe some of the eagle-eyed A2A pilots. I corrected it some time ago, so it's not something that's just happened. But I will tell you what it is. I had latched the door at the top, I'd locked it, but I hadn't fully latched it down here. And what that meant was that you could hear the air coming in through that gap. Now, because it's been so long since I've flown this aeroplane, you couldn't hear that. Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear that. I couldn't hear the difference. But again, that's one of the things I love about Accu-sim, because you get to know your aircraft. One of the things I didn't show you back then, but if I remember, I'll put up a graphic now, is the hangar, maintenance hangar, where you can check that everything is working. It really is an aircraft that you feel that you own, and the way you treat it can have an impact on how it behaves, on things that can go wrong, and silly little things like that, not closing the door properly. The aircraft is telling you, for God's sake, put it right. I love that. I can't wait to see what A2A bring to Microsoft Flight Simulator with this. If I'm honest, I've really been praying that they bring their Warbirds in, their T6 Texan and their P51 are just beautiful, their Spitfire too. I'm hoping that they bring the Warbirds in. I really didn't fly the Comanche in P3D, I was mainly flying the Spitfire, the T6 and the Mustang. But it's funny, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, because there's an absence of really good Warbirds, I've actually been doing a lot more GA flying, and I can see myself flying the Comanche a lot more now in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It could actually become my go-to GA single engine aircraft. Currently my go-to, I guess, is the Black Square steam gauge overhaul Bonanza, but I can see the Comanche taking that place until, and I pray they do this one, the V-tail Bonanza. The A2A V-tail Bonanza is actually the aircraft that I flew really as GA in P3D. I flew it for my virtual airline, Andros Meridian Airlines, and that aircraft just had so much character, so much grunt. Wonderful aeroplane. But the Comanche is beautiful in its own right. It's very smooth. This aircraft that I'm actually flying is based on the real world aircraft owned by Scott Gentile, who is the owner of A2A Simulations. So this is his aircraft, and that's one of the great things about A2A also, is that the aircraft in the simulator is based on a real world, either a real world counterpart, in this case Scott's Comanche, or they've done some research using real world aircraft. They're also pilots. They also make flight simulators for government organisations, commercial organisations, and the United States Air Force. So you know that you're getting something that's got high fidelity written all over it. And you've only got to talk to A2A fans just to know how passionate they are about the quality of the A2A aircraft. And it is something that's been missing from Microsoft Flight Simulator, that is for sure. Microsoft Flight Simulator has got beautiful scenery, and the aircraft have really massively improved. When it first came out, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really interested in it. I flew some of the default aircraft and the scenery was pretty, but I didn't really like the aircraft. Whereas the third-party aircraft that have been coming out recently are pretty good. Oh, this is interesting. So we've suddenly picked up a wind, which has come out of nowhere. We've got a 11 knots from 322, so that's changed the behaviour of the aeroplane slightly. Interesting. Makes life more interesting when you're dealing with something like that. I mean, that got 11 knots is nothing, but we were pretty much flying through calm air before, but now as we're heading up into the mountains, that's really made a difference. So yeah, I was waffling, wasn't I? Yeah, saying about Microsoft Flight Simulator and the defaults, but there's some really good third-party stuff now. Loving the Black Square analogues, the King Air, the Bonanza. I'd get the Baron, but I did buy the cheap version of Microsoft Flight Simulator, so I haven't got the base Baron to be able to use that. There is some really good stuff in there, but A2A is the pinnacle of GA Microsoft. GA simulator aircraft. I really have no doubt about that at all. And hopefully we won't have to wait much longer. They're in, at the time of making this video, they're in beta testing, so hopefully it's not too far off, and you just know they're going to knock it out of the park. Right, let's have the landing lights off now. Don't need those. We're well away from the airport. We've climbed to a reasonable altitude. So the crater is ahead of us here. You can see we're in some high ground. It's just watching that. See, for free scenery, that's pretty good. But that gives you an idea of exactly what it was when I say that A2A and Orbx kind of revolutionised how I felt about flight simming. This kind of thing is an example. Compared to default, to see something like that was just mind-blowing. There's a few weird things, like over there you've got some water that seems to be defying gravity and is halfway up a hill. You see that kind of thing from time to time. You see a little bit of that in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think it's just one of those quirks when you think you've got a flight sim that's covering the whole of the globe. It's not going to be perfect all the time. Right, how are we looking? T's and P's are good. No issues. You really do need to be looking in this aeroplane as well, because of Accu-sim, things can go wrong. And it's very easy to get complacent and not realise realise that something potentially is happening, and also just keeping an eye on the whole physics of it. I remember, in fact, one of the early videos on this channel was flying the Comanche, and I'm trying to think where I was flying out of. I want to say it was Popham, but might not have been. And I climbed above cloud, no problem at all, and then I did a very steep descent through cloud, and as I did it, all of a sudden my engine lost power. It was still running, but I had very little left in terms of giving it some beans. And I fiddled about, and I found an airfield that I could land at. I really had no power, it was struggling to stay in the air. Landed at the airfield, taxied off the runway, aircraft struggling to keep going, and then started kind of thinking through the problem. Why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? And then realised that, of course, this is Accu-sim, and what it had done, it had simulated carb icing. Because I'd made the descent through the cloud, I didn't have carb heat on, and as a result the engine had completely lost power. And it was little things like that, again, that make you think, wow, this is really accurate. So you do have to keep on top of it, make sure you're not doing anything silly. So we're just coming up on Askia now. Just going to start a gentle turn to take us to Vopna-Frosh. But let's have a look at the lake. Lake, of course, formed in the main crater. See any NASA astronauts down there? Just hop over this piece of cloud. A hardy individual to go swimming in that, that's for sure. This is summertime in the sim, so it probably looks warmer than it actually is. You see there's still a bit of snow on the ground. What do we want? 5.8 degrees. Stunning scenery. Coming around. Yeah, there's something interesting going on here. be. Accu-sim kicks you in the backside again. I hadn't checked the HSI for variation, so I've been flying using a little nav map rather than actually flying a particular heading, and as soon as I say to myself, right, I want to fly a heading which was 58 degrees, and I look at the HSIs, something's not quite right. And then I realised, because I haven't checked it, I should have checked it on the ground, should have checked it against the runway heading, all those basic things. And because I'm just getting caught up in having a sightseeing flight and checking out the Yoke and flying the Comanche, just forgetting some basics there that are pretty damn important. It's interesting getting back into the Accu-sim way of doing things. Don't think I've ever had an aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator do that to me yet. Doesn't always happen with Accu-sim, just every now and again from memory. Have an autopilot. Should we give it a go if I can remember how to use it? So autopilot on, and then we get the mode. So let's just let it settle down. So we're going to go for no, it's pressing it, isn't it? So we go for heading. We want 58. There we go. And then we will engage the altitude as well. And if we haven't trimmed it correctly, or if the trim is out a bit, we'll get some indications here, but at the moment we're not, so the aircraft is nicely trimmed. And we have no problems there. And there we go, so autopilot is in heading mode, maintaining altitude, everything good. Yeah, if you're still flying P3D and you haven't got the free Orbx Iceland demo, it's well worth getting it really, just for doing a bit of tuning around. Some interesting landscape. If anyone who's watching this is actually from Iceland or has experience flying over Iceland, I'd really be interested to know what you think, just how realistic this is. So just looking ahead now, where are we? So we've got a little bit of a valley coming up, and then we'll pop out at Vopna-Farush. What are the winds of Vopna-Farush at the moment? Saying, where is it? No wind. And the QNH is 1013, so let's dial that in while we're here. Oh, I keep forgetting it's on the different one, isn't it? Let's have a look at that again. 1013, so we want 29.8, which I think is pretty much where we were before, wasn't it? think we should let's drop down and have a look at some of the scenery. Go out of autopilot. All back on the power. Going to enrich the mixture a little bit, seeing as we're descending. Keep an eye on that rate of descent. Don't want to go too fast in a downward direction. Yeah, it's really interesting flying over here. It does remind me of why I used to like flying in P3D. I mean, this is this isn't obviously photorealistic scenery or anything like that. It's an Orbx kind of pack which changes the textures to make it look more realistic. So unlike Microsoft Flight Simulator, that isn't down there what you'd actually be looking at if you're in this exact position, but it's what the Orbx scenery is kind of approximating. Certain features like the water features obviously would be there, and the general colours I would expect to be pretty similar, but in terms of, you know, is that grass there exactly as it is in real world? No, but that river, that little stream should be there, that lake should be there. Getting blown around a little bit now. More just turbulence actually. The wind itself, according to little nav map, is 2 knots from 3 degrees, which is absolutely nothing, but we've certainly picked up a bit of turbulence there. And we'll just follow this river, keeping an eye on the speed. Checking the T's and P's, everything's looking good. So just out of interest actually, stick in the comments below if you had a point where you suddenly found your thing in Flight Sim. You suddenly found that thing where you thought, yeah, this is definitely for me. Just put in the comments below what that was. I'd be interested to know. Quite often people get a bit bored with Flight Sim, or they lose their way with it, lose their purpose, and sometimes you just need something to bring you back on course. Here's an example of those funny kind of rivers. So we've got a river that's not really matching the mesh. Those two things aren't necessarily working together properly. So I think what I'm going to do is, because we're not many miles away from there now, I'm going to head out over the sea. We'll pass over Vobna-Furush, have a look at the ground, see what it looks like, and then head out onto the sea and then shoot an approach. At the moment there's still no wind there, so I'm sure in real life there'd probably be a hefty whack of wind. In fact, do you know what, now that we've done our flight, our sightseeing, I'm tempted to put real world weather in, although I'm a little bit concerned that it could break the sim, because my P3D keeps crashing on me, and so far in this flight it hasn't. Do you know what, I'm not going to risk it. I would hate to get this far and then suddenly, by starting active sky, it all goes wrong. But it's very tempting. What do you think? Do you know what? You've stuck with this video this long. Let's get active sky working. If the video suddenly goes, thanks for coming along for the flight. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the channel soon. If it doesn't, then let's see what happens. Okay, bear with me. Are you ready? Let's go for live weather in 3, 2, 1. I've pressed the button. Let's see what it gives us. So we've got 19 knot crosswind from 127. Okay. This will be a good test of me in the yoke. Oh, we got a little bit of rain. That really is 19 knot crosswind as well. That's pretty much across the runway, so I'm still going to... no, I'm not. I'm going to do a straight in. Let's bring everything back. Trade some speed for height because we are a little bit low. Prop fully forward, mixture rich. Gonna put the fuel pump. Well, the fuel pump is already on. Let's have the landing lights on. Let's trim. Just bringing off that speed. It's funny, if you watched the previous video where I was talking about the yoke, I did have a yoke before. I had the Cytec yoke, and I flew the Comanche in P3D with the Cytec yoke, and I hated the way the yoke felt, so I sold it on eBay, and it kind of put me off yokes. Right, gear down, let's remember the 3-stage. There it is. So what you got to do is just remember to flick it into the off position, and then your controller will work. Yeah, so that did kind of put me off yokes, but I can tell you that flying the Comanche with the Fulcrum is totally different. Right, I need to shut up and concentrate on flying. Thank God you say he shut up. Knot crosswind now. Green, good. This isn't going to be the best landing you've ever seen, I'm telling you now. nose round. Oh, that wind is strong. Look at, even now on the ground, it's still kind of grabbing. Amazing. Right, now that's better. That's better. So, yeah. Well, that was a very interesting test of the yoke. Or test of me, rather. The yoke doesn't need testing. But doing a strong crosswind landing in the yoke, apart from my technique, the yoke itself performed wonderfully, and that actually felt really nice. I actually felt, and I know this might be hard to believe having seen that, but I really did feel like I had some control over it. And the only thing that felt a bit iffy was when I actually touched down. Not with the yoke with me. But anyway, there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm glad that we turned on the real world weather. It did make for a more interesting landing, that's for sure. Good to be back in P3D. Wonderful to be back in the Comanche. Can't wait to see this aeroplane in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And you can be sure there'll be a video on the channel when that happens. Thanks for joining. I look forward to seeing you on the channel again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.